Good day, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Soulful Conversation. And today I am sharing this panel with four beautiful ladies that are in opposite fields. And you're going to hear that when they present themselves. It's very incredible to me every time I do a panel to see how we can have scientists, we can have educators, we can have politicians, we can have artists, and we all at the end of the day come together and be the same with the whole of who we are and how we want to show up in the world. And the way that we want to show up in the world is authentically. And so this is why I created the Soulful Conversation, so that the people that maybe have not launched their businesses yet, they're just thinking about it, or they're in it, but they feel stuck. They can hear us, they can hear you guys, and they can feel your answers, and they can know, oh, I can do this too. And if you're watching right now, you have in the corner right here of everybody the credentials for people. You want to reach out to someone, go right ahead. Everybody is eager to speak with you. So today, if you do not know me, my name is Dominique. I am an energy conductor and a spiritual translator. I do soul maps for business owners, and I help people tap into the whole of who they are, tap into themselves, and be able to weave in the 3D and the 6D, which is why I'm here today on this panel. So I will let everybody introduce themselves, and then we're going to go into the questions. So we're going to start with Veronica. Would you like to give us an introduction of who you are?
Sure. So hi, everyone. Happy to be here today. Thank you for hosting, Dominique. And I really help people raise their vibration, because everything is energy, and it's about creating happier, healthier relationships and therefore life. And when I talk about relationships, it's not just with people, which is the first thing we think about, but really everything in life is a relationship. We have a relationship with food, with our environment, with our environment, with our animals, with our body, and most importantly, with ourself. And so I really believe in the mind-body connection and work on a mental, emotional, and physical level to help people raise their vibration.
Yeah, it is true. And I love the fact that you're talking about, relationship not only being human to human.
Yeah.
The relationship is everything, again, because you say energy is in everything. And so we have a relation with everything. This is incredible. Catherine, your turn to introduce yourself. Oh, I think you're muted. Catherine, you're muted.
Sorry. Thanks
okay.
For the opportunity to speak to everyone tonight. I previously was a scientist. I suppose I still am, but I'm currently working in more the emotional behavioral area for kids between the ages of 9 to 16. And I'm an author. I've created programs to help children to recognize and process their emotions, especially when they're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, confused, angry, even bored. The students do the courses and they gain the skills to make thoughtful choices, positive impact for themselves, their families. The improved emotional regulation also provides confidence, better social and academic skills, setting the stage for future success.
Oh, that sounds really good. There's a lot of work to be done there with our teens, and somebody has to do it, right?
Yeah, it's fun. It is fun.
Beautiful. Thank you. Polly, your turn.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, because I love just talking to people I've never met before and just finding out how, as you said at the beginning, we're also connected. So I'm a business design mentor, and I help people build businesses that are reflections of who they are, the truth of who they are. And I use a lot of natural principles, and I use a lot of elemental principles and a lot of energy work to help people understand what's the voice that's moving through them, what's the song they want to sing. And I loved what Veronica said there about how we have all these relationships, because that's so important when you're building a business. It's understanding how all of those relationships play into who you are and therefore what you're capable of creating. So I help people sort of like get rid of all of those musts, shoulds, and etc., that, you know, how they should build a business, and let them find their own way. And really, my job is to draw it out of them, because they already know, you know. So I'm just sort of like finding the pathways through which they can unlock that and let go of all of the sort of like the conventional wisdom that's keeping them feeling really, really stuck.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful. I see it in my work, so many people that are in more of the linear thinking in their businesses, and now they want to understand the energy behind it all. So that's beautiful. That's the work that I do. So of course I'm going to tell you it's incredible, but everybody here is doing incredible jobs.
They are.
Jen, your turn.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Jen. I'm known locally as the Tropic Pianist Gamer. So because you're not from the UK, you probably don't know what Tropic is, but Tropic's network marketing business. I'm a piano teacher mainly, inspiring the younger generation, making music as accessible as possible. I'm known as ADHD friendly as well. And the gamer part of me founded a Nintendo fan group 12 years ago with my husband. I'm also a best-selling international author and podcaster with my Tales of Anxiety, because from the age of 13 I had anxiety, and I was only diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder at the age of 27, but I overcame it in lockdown when I found the light to the self-development path, and now I'm my confident true self through being the Tropic Pianist Gamer.
Wow. So Tropic, this is very funny. I'm sorry. I'm just going to deviate a little bit from the panel to go to Tropic. So I thought Tropic was because you like to be in the tropic. And I don't know, like I was imagining you playing piano somewhere with palm trees. So I guess it has nothing to do with that.
Well, no, Tropic is a Tropic skincare. It's a UK company, network marketing like Avon kind of idea. But yeah, tropical wise, well, I'm not tropical, but I do have a Galaxy themed studio that I teach piano from.
Interesting.
So I like to be different.
Yeah, different. I like it different. I think that we're all different and the same at the same time, right? We all lead our businesses from the heart and from our core and from our intuition, whether we still do science or not. We are in administration, work with kids, work with the whole of the body, the soul, the mind. We all lead from our heart. And with that, we're going to go into the first question. We're going to keep the same flow. So we're going to start with you, Veronica. I'm going to read the question, and then we're going to go to everybody else. So reflecting on the early days of your soul-led business, what were some key hurdles you encountered while trying to balance your spiritual principles with business realities, and how did you navigate them?
So there were a lot of hurdles that I encountered. And just to name a few, one of them, for example, was actually advice overload. So when you start a business, you know, everyone comes, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, I don't know if I want to call it a trap, but go down this road of actually doing a lot of courses and business, because you go from wearing one hat in a traditional job to wearing all the hats. And so for most people, it certainly was for me, you have to pick up some new skills along the way. And obviously with all the courses, and there are endless amounts of courses and mentors and coaches and everything out there for this. Everyone is teaching and preaching their way, which obviously worked for them, and that's great. But we all know we're all bio-individuals, and we all have our unique personalities and ways and human design and all these different elements to us. And so what works for one doesn't necessarily work for the next. And so I was definitely one that went down that rabbit hole, wasting a lot of time and money and effort and energy into things that ultimately didn't really bring me much and were very discouraging, actually, along the way. And, you know, how did I overcome that? It's actually practicing what I preach. So just continuing doing the inner work on myself and going, okay, it doesn't mean the course was bad or the teacher was bad or that I'm bad. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means it's not my way. And so continuing to just do my own inner work to make sure that I don't slump into the hole that I felt like I was going down in business, if that makes sense.
It totally does, right? Because when you're starting in business, you finally understand that maybe you don't have a team behind you, especially the people that come from maybe more of corporate world. You know, the corporate is really hard, stressful, but there's a lot of departments.
Yeah,
Or
I
if
lived
you're
in it.
working, oh, were you in the corporate? Yeah.
I was, yeah.
So when you come into a solo business, and then you're like, oh, I have to do the marketing, I have to do the creation, I have to do the tech, I have to be the secretary, the administrator, the accountant, then I have to organize my events, and it can get very overwhelming. And what do? We go into courses, right? But
Yeah.
finding the course that suits you, or the mentor or the guide that has done it before, is so important. So important. So if you're new to business and you're listening to this, we've all done it. We've all like subscribed to 15 different, courses that are free courses that all have the same launch on the same day. And then you don't watch the lives. And you're like, oh my God, I signed up for all these things. I really want to watch them. It's okay. It's all okay.
Yeah, total overwhelm though. And actually the one thing that I would, I guess, advice I would give my younger self if I were to go back is, instead of, because it is a lonely road, that's another hurdle, sort of the loneliness. I don't know if the other ladies encountered this, but I certainly did. And it's when going down these rabbit holes, if you are looking for mentors or coaches or whatever, maybe steer away from looking at the outcomes, which everyone advertises, because obviously they're an important selling point, but really look at the person. Go online and watch as many videos and read about the person, the individual that you can, to see if you feel like I don't know if this is the right way of putting it, but maybe if you could be friends with this person, like, do you really resonate? Do you see yourself in this person versus just somebody who's created a big business? So I'd say steer towards finding out more about their personality versus simply the business outcomes. That would be my advice to my younger self and to others out there.
Yeah, that is a beautiful advice. Finding the right mentor. If you want to do this alone, you can. But that's also my advice, and I'm sure everybody else resonates. Find the person that your heart and your core is resonating with. See what they've done, and then follow this person for a while until you want to invest in whatever they're going to help you with. But don't shy away just because you've felt the overwhelm. It goes away at one point. This is my take on this. So, Catherine, we're going to go with you now with this question.
Actually, I could relate a lot to what Veronica said, but the irony is I started off and the reality was really my biggest hiccup, because I had this sudden passion, this heart-driven desire to create these programs, and I was going to do this business and create these courses, and then suddenly reality stepped in. Business courses, there's websites, domains, tax sheets and all those other things I had absolutely no idea about. And there is so many courses that you sign up for. And I think I've put that there's so many outgoings without any incoming at first, which was terrible. It was also difficult to put a monetary value on my work. I had this love that I wanted to put out there, these courses, but I wasn't so sure what to charge. And not only that, it was suddenly hard because you thought you're doing this soul-based or heart-based work and how it was going to help kids, and then asking for money seemed to sort of detract a bit negative. But you soon learn that people will value what you have to offer. It's about value of the work. Don't align it with yourself. It's the work that they're valuing. I still had worth issues. I had come from that science background and had a fairly high position, a lot of respect. I'd been doing it for many years. jumping into an area without that solid credit, that educated experience, and that was also difficult, as well as losing the income, because I left the job to start this. And how I overcame it really was to, whenever I felt doubt, I really did think that I believed that this was what I wanted to do. I kept taking actions towards my vision, is what I'd call it, and the actions let all your fears, ego, and disbeliefs know that this is what you're determined to do. So I kept taking actions towards what I wanted to create. And I think, importantly too, I do have a coach that I talk to, so I do have a mentor.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Following your gut instinct is very, very important. In the initial phases, you're going to say, oh no, my gut, it's not guiding me towards the right place. And then a year later, you're going to say, I should have followed my gut. So we're going to go to Polly now.
Okay, so it's really interesting listening to everybody, because I came from doing marketing, and because I'd had a lot of background because I worked in charities, so I had to do, charities, like, you have to do everything. So I had a lot of the business skills. So really for me, it was about jumping straight into the second hurdle that people have, which Catherine touched on, which is around, am I, good enough? Am I enough to do this? And that's because you sort of like you get yourself, you realize you've tackled the intellectual, sort of like the knowledge-based stuff, then you realize that actually this business is coming from within. And I think for me, business and spirituality are kind of, on the face of it, different dynamics. But when you realize that your business is coming from your soul, it's this incredibly intimate, personal expression of who you are, then there comes a point where you just go, oh, this is scary, to actually start to talk this incredibly, this dialogue I can have within myself and feel safe within, but to say it out loud, that's kind of really tricky. So I think that's one of the next really big hurdles that comes along. And for me, the advice that I would give anybody else, and I would give myself, is really to come back to my values, come back to my ethos, because that is what's going to steer you through. When you've got this advice overload, you've got this information overload, you've got this self-worth tsunami crashing down on you, then it's your values that are going to help you navigate that. That's going to help you steer your way through. And Veronica said some really important things there about, choosing people, the right people, and it's not about the outcome, it's about the people that you surround yourself with, and the people you invite into your business to have an influence on it, because that's huge. The damage that could be done by inviting the wrong people into your business, because it sort of like makes you think, I've got to do this, or I need to think like that, or I'm not aspiring high enough, and you just lose yourself. So for me, it's about coming back to your values, coming back to your ethos, and that brings you back into your center. And when you start from your center, you're on solid ground.
Oh, I love that. When you start from your center, you're on solid ground. Definitely. I can totally relate to that. Thank you. Jen, it is now your turn.
Well, I align to all three of you, really, particularly about following your values. So I'm focusing on being a piano teacher mainly. So I set up my piano business out of fear, because I felt that I'd failed at every other element of life and there was nothing left for me apart from I could play the piano. So the backstory to that is I could actually read music by the time I was 3 years old, and I have perfect pitch. So it was always in my core values and my calling to be a musician of some context. But I was bullied so much as a kid and into adulthood that I believed I was rubbish at the piano, I was rubbish at everything. So I was starting out of fear. When I started my piano business in 2016, I actually believed that I wasn't good enough to be a teacher, but those who were willing to put their faith in me just went for it. I've still got an original student from that time with me now doing a grade 4. But the idea was I didn't have any proof that I could play the piano because I was that scared of putting myself out there because the bullies had told me I was rubbish. And you get told often enough, you believe it yourself. That was a quote said to me by an old friend when I was doing another talk last year. But it's coming back to what you know your values are again. So it was in lockdown when I actually joined Tropic that I started finding my confidence, because Veronica was saying about finding your tribe effectively, finding your people. And that was what I needed. I needed to find the people who liked me for my music, not because I was perfect or not perfect. Because the musicians would pick every little mistake up, but the ones who truly appreciated the music came just to listen for the atmosphere, for the actual music as the tunes, you know. So I found that tribe in lockdown, and as a result, I was able to build up a portfolio on YouTube. And this is the year I've got out in real life to play the piano a bit more, starting halfway through last year. But it took me from 2016 to 2023 to build up the confidence bit by bit. But now I'm able to stand in my power as my true self and know that I'm meant to be a piano teacher and a pianist. And the bullies are by the wayside now, because I can stand up to them and say, well, look, people actually love me for what I do, and I'm okay with not being perfect. So as a teacher, I do pass on to my kids that I teach that it's okay not to be perfect. As long as you love the music you're playing, that is the main thing. So instilling the passion for music in them like it did for me all those years ago.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I've always wanted to play piano, and I was pretty good, but now I understand why I stopped. I never saw it as bullying, but I guess bully can take many, many forms. So I'm so happy that you stood up and that you're doing this, because there needs to still have some real teachers, right? You can go online and learn everything, but learning the real essence from somebody else I find it incredible. I prefer learning from someone than going on evergreen courses. Always, this is my way. If you're listening to this and you love evergreen courses, that's also perfect. But what Jen just said, it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay not to be perfect. Just do what you love. Play the song. Polly also talked about, singing your own song. So yes, thank you everybody for the answer to this question. And we're going to go to the second one, and we're going to start with Veronica again. What were some of the toughest moments of self-doubt that you experienced in the first 3 years of your business, and how did you manage to push through and stay motivated?
So I love Jen's story as well. I think it's far more common than most people realize. And it also, to what you said a little bit before, Dominique, how, we all feel that we're different, and yet we're all the same because we all feel different. So that's actually a commonality between us all. And we all have these unhelpful beliefs about ourselves that we carry forward from childhood, whether we're conscious of them or not. And our feelings are really the guideline to whether we're living in alignment or not. And I certainly had plenty of self-doubt along my path. And I still do, quite frankly. I believe that self-evolution is a lifelong journey. I don't think we ever really get there. That's my personal belief. I know for me, I'm always working on it, and things always come up, and I have to go back and do the work again and figure it out and keep evolving. And that's also part of the beauty of it, I suppose. And for me, yeah, self-doubt was really when I had these moments. I was like, oh, is this ever going to work? Is it? And even now, there are better months and worse months. And then I'm like, oh, is this, am I meant to be doing this, or am I not meant to be doing this? Because there are times when it's just so hard. And when you are alone doing it and you don't have that security, and then all the beliefs, the inner demons come circling back up. And And I go back to sort of what I preach and, you know, raising my own vibration. And I'm a hypnotherapist as well. And so actually when I apply hypnotherapy, it is to go back and help others to find the root cause of some of the deep-seated beliefs, because for some, it's easy to let go, maybe when the issues are more superficial. For me, it's like that as well. And the more I practice this inner work, the better I get at letting things go and just really seeing them for what they are. It's about looking objectively at my subjective self, if that makes sense. But when I do have deeper issues, then I go back to the hypnotherapy and I go, okay, what's really the root cause of this, so that I can understand it, reframe it, work through it, and then let it go and raise my vibration in that way. And it's something I think everybody carries with us, because you know, we are products of our environment, and as children, we live in our emotions. You know, logic doesn't develop until the ages of 7 to 9, approximately. So before then, we're unfiltered, and that's when we pick up all these beliefs that may have served us back then, but subconsciously we carry them into adulthood when they really no longer serve us, and are definitely more harmful to us. It was my experience, and also in Jen's story was obvious. And I think most of us experience this. Working through it is the work.
Yeah, self-doubt is a big thing. And like you're saying, it doesn't stop. It's always there, right? And 80% of what we do is actually our subconscious. So if you can work with a hypnotherapist, someone that does subconscious reprogramming, it just makes you go like a leap further, but you're still going to have to deal with them. So learning the what did you say, the I'm sorry, I call it the seed of the problem, but you said something else, like going to the
cause.
Thank you, the root cause. Going to the root cause is so important, because when you know what it is, it's just easy to say, yeah, I don't need you today. I know I couldn't have done that by myself. I also have a very good friend that's a hypnotherapist, and she helped me so much through that. And every time you grow, some new beliefs come back, and you're like, oh, I thought I dealt with you. You like, there you are. You know, let's do this again. Yeah, thank you for that answer, Veronica. Catherine, your turn.
I also believe that your beliefs stay with you, and it does seem ironic that, you know, as adults, we're reacting because of these beliefs that our 2-year-old and 3-year-old self created. And yet, well, they're still having the impact today. But again, you know, these are my beliefs, you know, my big 3 worth issue, whether I'm good enough, whether my work was good enough, were my biggest hurdles to overcome. Especially going from, you know, a very safe, sort of secured type of work. You know, friends and my partner even wondered why I'd give up a well-paid, respected position. And, you know, that really made me start to question myself. And, you know, I thought I was a bit crazy, really. But overcoming it was, again, I guess I use my coach. I have a daily practice of focusing on the end result of what I want to create, or what we call our vision. And I also have a very quick process. As soon as I feel overwhelmed or not good enough or unworthy, I step in and use the quick process, and then I move on from there. It's kind of similar to the one we teach the kids. So I think we do have self-doubt, and it's part of who I am, but I don't actually have to live this way. So that's how I cope.
And I did read something, Catherine, on when you guys applied to be on this panel, I asked a lot of questions, and I did read at one point that you're saying you can be different, right? You can be who you are, but it all starts with you. So does that not program, but that little quick step fix, does it go with that, like going back into who you are?
No, all it does is I tell the kids that they will always be who they are. They will, that won't change, but what we can change is how they react and respond and remain that type of person. You'll always have the angry person or the cranky person or the person whose first response is to get, fly off the handle. That is who they are, but they don't have to stay that way. And that's what they learn, to accept that, to recognize who they are, but that is not who they need to continually be. I don't think if I answered that correct, but they get to do very short, very easy activity-based processes that they take away with them.
Yeah, you did answer my question. Basically, where I was going with that is, whether you're 9 years old or you're 50 years old, it's always the same. It always comes back to, you are who you are, and it's how you're reacting to it. So yeah, thank you for answering this question. Polly, your turn.
So isn't it interesting that so many of us have had that sort of like, am I good enough moment? And I was thinking, as everybody was talking about, how toxic so the business space is, because everyone presents themselves as being perfect. So coming back to what Jen was saying about needing to move past the notion that you have to be perfect, but that, again, coming back to what Veronica was saying about, it gets very lonely because I'm not doing as well as I think I should be doing, or everybody's telling me should be doing. So it actually makes you withdraw inside. And I said, no one's honest. And there are good days and there are bad days, and there are good months and there are bad months. And I have to say, I think if I think about what my toughest self-doubt moment was, is, am I enough? And I'd like to say that, oh yeah, I knocked that one out the park in the first 3 years. No, I didn't, because the more you do, the more ambitious you become, and the more ambitious you become, oh look, it comes back again. So it is a spiral. It is not something that we think, oh, I've dealt with that. Why do I have to deal with it again? Because it's a spiral. As we go up and we sort of like work on ourselves, and we develop our skills, and we develop our confidence, we become more excited about doing even more, and so we hit it again. So it's just, we're going deeper and deeper into it. And I think for me, it was about really learning I'm very happy in my head, but learning how to drop out of my head and into my body to listen to my intuitive wisdom was the key for me, because my head was telling me I had to do, and I had this long list of things that I had to do, and if I wasn't doing those, I wasn't being productive. But actually, it's about coming back to, what's really wanting to be expressed through me. And I think when you find that, then it helps you to move through. I mean, and that's the starting point of it. I mean, but we all then develop tools, whether that's hypnotherapy or sort of like quick practical tools. And I was thinking about, well, yeah, actually, I did that. I developed a tool for that, which was energy-based work to release belief patterns from cells. And so, every belief has an impact on your cellular electricity. So if you take the belief out of there, then the whole patterning changes. So that was, that's my way of doing it. Now, there's lots of different ways of doing it, but ultimately it's about beginning to get control over your patterns and your beliefs and how they impact you, so that you can do more. Does that answer it?
Of course it does. No, everything that everybody's answer is totally helping. Anyways, in my world, if I would have known of all these things the first time that I made a business, because every single time that I had a new business coming up, I went into self-doubt and into imposter syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. Who am I to do this? The same way, Jen, I mean, you talked about it, and your entire story is about that. It's like, you knew you were good. You knew you were able to do it, but it was there. And it took you say, a couple of years before you totally owned, that part of who you are, which I'm happy everybody here did. But everybody that is listening, if you are listening to this, you might go into self-doubt, you might go into imposter syndrome, you might wonder who you are to be doing what you are doing. Just do it one step at a time and step into it and do what you need to do, because there is someone out there that needs to see you do it to help them follow the path as well. And I'm going to go to Jen now to answer the question.
So for the first 3 years of business, well, I'm going to do a double layer of 3 years, because the first 3 years of being a piano tutor, I didn't really overcome the obstacles. I just sat and wallowed, basically. I was relying on that one person coming to me and putting posters up in their village so that more people would see my poster and come to me. But everyone basically flaked off because I think I scared them off by giving them like books that were slightly too difficult for them. Because I bumped into an adult student that later that year, and she's like, "Oh, it's too hard. I can't try again." And I was like, "What have I done? I've failed again." So I just kind of sat in it. And then it was 2019, and I was actually doing okay on word of mouth because I was almost fully subscribed, but I hadn't done anything myself. I hadn't put myself out there. I still had no proof that I could actually play the piano. People were just coming to me off this poster. And then lockdown hit, and I lost most of my business overnight because we had to move piano lessons online for the first time. And surprisingly, where I live on Anglesey in North Wales, a lot of people don't have stable internet, which is a bit horrifying in this day and age, but it is what it is. Hopefully things have improved 4 years later, but this was lockdown. So lockdown was the start of Tropic. So I joined Tropic the week before lockdown when the panic of lockdown hit. And again, I joined out of thinking I failed at piano then, and I had nothing left. So joining a network marketing company was my last option to hopefully salvage what I had left of myself, because I never knew who I was and I didn't have any direction or ambition. So I joined it out of impulse. And that 3 years was the pinnacle of the point of overcoming the obstacles. Because joining Tropic opened up the window for self-development that I didn't know existed. I'd never heard of mindset. I'd never heard of self-development. I'd never heard of comfort zone. So Tropic people were like, "You've got to get out of your comfort zone." How do I do that? Well, you don't like taking photos of yourself. Start by taking a photo of yourself. You need to promote your products. Take photos of yourself. So I did that. What's next? Go live. That was my worst nightmare. Couldn't possibly go live. Well, the 8th of May 2020, I pressed go, and that was the start of the confidence of being on camera. So it was around that time I recorded a video of me playing the piano, but the perfectionism kicked in because it took me all day to record sort of a short program, because every time I made a mistake, I had to re-record it. And it got to the evening, and my husband was like, "Have you done it, but have you finished yet?" I was like, "No, I keep getting it wrong." I was getting really stressed, and he could see the stress. And he was like, "Just press publish, just do it. It doesn't matter about the mistakes, so press publish." And the people who watched it were like, "Wow, you're an amazing pianist." And I was like, "Really? Okay." But I put that to the side, and then it was the end of 2020. I met someone who taught me how to set goals and get out of my comfort zone step by step. Now, previously to that, I met someone who calls herself the vision board queen, and I couldn't really relate to the vision boards because I don't really like the big display of poster things because I haven't got the wall space. So I was like, well, I can't relate to that to make it realistic. So this goal setting coach taught me how to make realistic goals. So she said, "Right, I want you to go live on the piano and play the piano live to your Facebook group," because I set up a Facebook group for the Tropic. Okay, so I went live and played. My favorite Christmas film is Love Actually, so I played one of the love themes from Love Actually. I was shaking like a leaf, but I did it. I was like, right, off the back of that, I'm going to do a full Christmas concert live in my group. And the month later, I did a full Christmas concert live. I was shaking for the entire first half, but by the second half, I was slightly more confident. The feedback from that concert was absolutely amazing. So I did it for the next 2 years online, and then 2023, I did it in person for the first time because I was ready to go in person. So I'm just about to do my first summer concert in person. I'm looking forward to that. But like Veronica was saying before, it's about the root causes. So overcoming the obstacles for those first 3 months as Tropic, I had to find the root cause of what was causing my anxiety disorder. And I didn't have any help from the professionals because basically I refused the medication, so they didn't want to know. So I was like, right, well, self-development, what is this? So I tapped into it, and it's basically like, right, what your root causes? Perfectionism, fear of judgment. The two of them together, lethal. You know, you've got to sort yourself out. So basically I learned sort of the skills of having resilience and also self-awareness. So those are the key lessons that I learned in my self-development journey to deal with the root causes of everything. And how did I overcome perfectionism? Well, it was the feedback from the people watching my piano lives. So every time I did a piano live, which became every month from 2021 onwards, I'm still doing that today. So every month I'll go live on the piano. I now do requests all year round, so people can request stuff and I'll play it the same month if I can, or the next month if I can't. And every time someone gets their requests, I get like, wow, that was amazing, thank you, and stuff. So the feedback, I don't seek validation for what I do, but the feedback definitely encourages me to do more of what I love doing. So yeah.
Yeah, to know that people are responding to what we're doing helps, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for these answers. We're going to go into the third question, and we're going to start with Veronica again. During the initial phase of your business, what helped you stay focused on your soul-led mission, and how did you ensure your purpose remained clear amidst the challenges?
So for me, it was really just going back to my story, because I think for me, it was these businesses are built out of our own experiences. It was that way for me. And so I ended up in really, really, really toxic relationships. So to the point where I was just a shadow of myself. I was very ill. I suffered a brain seizure. I ended up having back surgery. I couldn't keep on any weight. I had brain fog so badly. My vision started to go. I mean, my body was just shutting down. It was so bad. And I didn't really understand why. And this is the thing in toxic relationships. So in this case, it was a romantic one, because for better or for worse, the romantic relationships are where we spend the most time and proximity. So they tend to have the biggest effect. And yeah, I didn't understand why I was becoming so ill, and why I couldn't focus anymore, and why I started having short-term memory loss. And I was just really, my body was shutting down. And I got to the point where, yeah, everything inside of me and outside of me was collapsing, and I hit my rock bottom. And that was, check out or do something different. That was my choice. And I wanted to check out. I mean, that's how low I was, but I didn't. And then I made a decision ultimately at that point and said, okay, well, if I'm going to live, I have to do something differently, because I can't keep going the way I'm going. That's the definition of insanity, to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. And so I decided to change. And that was really the beginning of my self-healing journey. And this for me was at the end of 2019, early 2020 was when I hit my rock bottom. It happened to coincide with COVID, but it actually had nothing to do with COVID in my case. And that's when I started my self-healing, inner growth and evolution journey. And I've been learning and practicing ever since, all kinds of different modalities. And I went back to school. As I noted before, I did used to work in the corporate world. I've had a very varied career, but I went back to school, became an integrative nutrition health coach, became a hypnotherapist, rapid transformation therapy practitioner, and did many other courses along the way. And ultimately, going back to my childhood, I never knew what I wanted to do. So I never had direction, but I always knew I wanted to work for myself. I always had that desire to have my own business. And then I got to the point where I thought, well, maybe this can be it. Maybe I can take all of these elements and make something of it to help others, because if only we could all understand that everything starts with the relationship that we have with ourselves and how that really functions, and understand ourselves, honestly, I believe the world would be a better place. And as I also mentioned at the beginning, I'm such a big believer in the mind-body connection because I've lived it. So looking back, I didn't understand what was happening to me at the time and why I was getting so sick. And I went to umpteen doctors, and none of them could explain why these things were happening. None of them could explain anything. And now looking back, it all makes so much sense to me. It's so logical. Of course, I was having those specific symptoms because they're all correlated. I mean, pain is just emotion trapped in the body. And so if everybody could just understand this more and devote themselves to themselves, quite frankly, then I think so many people could avoid unhealthy relationships with other people, but also with their bodies and with their environment. And with, like I said, everything is a relationship. And I believe that the quality of our life ultimately is determined by the quality of our relationships. And so that was really always going back to my story and thinking, oh, if I can just help people understand this and learn how to go about this, and really understand that everything is energy and that it is about the physical, the mental, and the emotional, because one without the other is always going to be a half-baked solution. Then, hopefully other people can get out of toxic relationships, or better yet, avoid them completely if they understand them. And if we, learn how to set better boundaries ourselves. And again, it all comes back to the relationship we have with ourselves. And ultimately, if everyone were more focused on themselves as opposed to other people, I believe the world would be a much, much healthier, more peaceful place. And so, yeah, it's always coming back to that story.
Yeah, that story. So you think that when someone has a challenge, either in their life or in their businesses, instead of focusing on the challenge, we focus more on ourselves?
As humans, we love to blame others or situations, people, everything, because it's easier, right? It's easier to say, oh, it's this situation's fault, or it's this person's fault, or it's because of that happened and this happened. But the question is then, why? Because everything is energy and we all emit certain frequencies, and the law of attraction dictates that we attract what we send out. So even if it may not be a situation that we like, be that in health with a disease, an illness or whatever, or a situation in the environment or in relationships, we are somehow attracting that. So we are emitting that frequency, and that comes back to understanding, okay, why and how. But the gut reaction is to go, oh, no, I don't want to be sick. I would never ask for that. I'm not doing that. Or I would never want to be broke. I don't want, it's to blame others. But it comes back to taking responsibility for ourselves and our life. And I know that sounds like a scary word to many, and even and some people hear it, and it was my initial reaction when the first time I heard it was like, well, of course I'm responsible. I'm doing 10,000 different things. I have so many responsibilities in life, but I wasn't really taking responsibility for my life. And responsibility just means an ability to respond. And I find when you take that word apart like that, it becomes a lot more digestible, and then it becomes something empowering versus disempowering or blaming. And that's where it starts. We all have to start with ourselves.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this answer. Catherine, you're also one to say that everything starts from within, right? So I'm going to let you answer this question.
And what Veronica was saying, if people don't realize, if they don't accept that they are creating everything, it makes them a victim of life. But if you realize, okay, I've been creating this mess, this garbage, what's been going wrong, it makes you quite powerful. So you say to yourself, if I've created this, why not create something that I want? So if you realize you're creating it, you can then choose to create something better. So it is a powerful thing, you know, accepting that you have created this or attracted this. But for my clarity and purpose, it was more about taking action steps again towards the end result that I wanted to create. Being involved in actually creating the programs, running small trials with kids, usually family, nephews, nieces, any poor sucker that had come my way, support from my coach. The small successes you have along the way, you know, with the kids and the change in them. Importantly, being powered by the why. You know, the why comes from the heart, the how comes from the head. So getting back into the why is so important to me. My daily process of focusing on my choices and things, but the biggest, and it was the reason I decided to do this work, is when I would see those horrendous headlines and, you know, news shows, teenager suicides, harsher punishments for juveniles, and teen shoots teachers and students at school. You know, I was always horrified. I always thought, you know, something should be done. You know, they're busy blaming the schools, the parents, the social media. And I thought, you know, they're wasting so much time blaming. Let's do something to give the kids the skills, the tools to cope with this. Anyway, so I was always taking action steps. And again, they've got to be important action steps and the correct action steps, because we can get ourselves caught in preparing. So you're doing this and you're doing that, but you're not actually heading towards your goal. It's sometimes a bit of a trap. And, you know, again, I have a process that I use to actually get the action steps to take. I come backwards. I look at what I want to create. I look at where I am now, and I work backwards by saying, well, what steps do I take to get the result I have? And
reverse engineering, right?
Yes, I do. The action steps I take come actually from that vision I have, you know, kids having the classes and gaining experience and having fun. And I look at where I am now, you know, nervous, creating courses, you know, worried that it'll be good. And I step back, and actually what I do visually is I send a bridge across to see what steps did I take to go from there to where I am now in that end result. And that's how
that's very nice.
Clarity and purpose.
Well, thank you for this. And you spoke about going back to the why. Veronica said to go back into ourselves. And Polly, you spoke about values. This is in the collective that I lead. This is what we do. We go inside and we do the 7 layers deep for our values, and really always going back to the why, to make sure that we will go through the challenges and we will get to where we want to be. So I'm going to let Polly now answer this question.
Oh, I'm not going to claim that I've nailed this one at all, because I think the more you do, sometimes you just go through those phases where all the threads unravel and you've got to tie them back together again. You've got to weave them back together. And it's not, they don't always, sometimes, always amazes me. I'll look back at my notes from like 8 years ago and just go, oh, I nailed it then, but I didn't understand it the way that I understand it now. I've had to constantly go through this reweaving. But what I would say is that I've always been clear on my purpose, but I haven't always felt clear on my purpose. So I think it's kind of quite important to distinguish between those two things, because who you are, we've all said it, who you are is really important. The more in touch you are with who you are, the more you're going to be walking that path of who you are, because it gets really uncomfortable not to, you know, to betray's too strong a word, but to not value yourself enough to be you. So, but I think for me, it's like, in terms of what is my business for? What is my work about? That's changed, but the themes have always been there. So I just got okay with the fact that sometimes I need to take all of those themes apart and reweave them in a slightly different way. And knowing that those core principles, those core values, those core expressions of who I am need to have a place in my business, and that I'm okay to change what my business looks like, then it's okay. You know, I think that keeps me going, and it makes me think, oh, I'm not betraying my label, or I'm not having to, you know, I'm not making myself sensible or understandable to my niche. It's like, it's all about, it comes back, we've all said it, it comes back to who you are. If you're doing the work that comes from within, then that creates your niche. Never ever put yourself in the position, that would be my advice to everybody, is never put yourself in a position where you have to devalue yourself in order to make money, because that's not making, that's just making money. It isn't actually advancing your sense of self-worth, your sense of self-fulfillment and expression, and you're not growing. So come back to who you are always. We've all said it. We're all going to keep on saying it. Come back to who you are, and everything else will flow out from there.
Yeah, come back to who you are. Let's all say it again, right? We need to remind ourselves, because every time something happens, it's the first thing we forget. We're like, oh, what did I do? Instead of just stepping back and saying, okay, who am I in this? Where did I say yes to something that maybe I could have said no for me?
Yeah.
You know, and like you say, it's not about the money, it's about the purpose, it's about the alignment, it's about the whole of who you are. And this will bring all the abundance in every form that you need it when we stay aligned. Beautiful. Thank you for this. Jen, your turn.
Well, you're saying about coming back to who you are. What if you never knew who you were in the first place? Because I never knew who I was until I was 35. Because I was that bullied that I was told that I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. So I mentioned being a gamer. So I run Nintendo North Wales with my husband, and that is 12 years old this year. But of course I had anxiety for most of that 12 years. And I actually had a double identity on Facebook just to hide from my friends that I thought would judge me, the fact that I was a gamer. And it wasn't until I emerged as the Tropic Pianist Gamer officially that I was like, right, I'm ready to defeat the bullies and admit that I'm an adult gamer, and that's okay, because that is part of me. But of course, being the Tropic Pianist Gamer, that is not one niche. That is three very contrasting niches. So it was like, well, how do I make it work? Because everyone's like, oh, that's not going to work. You're too far apart from yourself. You know, you don't know who you are, kind of thing. And I actually tuned into a mentor. So I had a mentor in 2021, and I joined her for her virtual road trip to visibility. So hers was a different take on how to get visible. But the end result was me going on a live challenge every day for 30 days on Instagram, just to answer different prompts. And by the end of it, I was perfectly comfortable going live on a more public platform. But what she taught me overall was it's okay to not have one niche. It's okay to have multiple niches if you like multiple things. Because the original experts, when I started my self-development journey in about May 2020, was you must only have one niche. And I remember doing one of these courses that was being thrown about. And because I said I couldn't nail down one niche, they said, go away, they couldn't help me. And I was devastated by that, because I was like, well, who's going to help me now? But then I tapped into this lady the following year, and everything kind of fell into place then. So I can come back to myself now. I know who I am. But it took me that long to establish who I wanted to be, because I needed to know that it was okay to have those multiple outlets. And now I know that I can link them together, because they all work together quite nicely under the theme of community, which is one of my core values. So it all winds up very neatly into one, not one niche, but one purpose of clarity, as it were. So.
Yeah, so the niche doesn't have to be one. Again, like you're saying, right? It's basically your collective, your community, your modality is where you're bringing all your values into it, making it your own personal niche. And if I can go back to what you said at the beginning, what do you do when you do not know who you are? I have a goal in life that everybody will be born, and instead of receiving their birth certificate, they're going to receive their birth certificate with their human design in the back. So let's like go over that need of searching outside and understand that if we go inside from very, very young, instead of installing beliefs of I'm not worthy, I can't do this, I have to have learned this before I do this. If we install the belief in everyone that we need, I don't like to use the word need, but I will use it here. We need to look inside instead of outside, and not look at what other people, and you've all said it here, not look at what the others are saying or doing, because our business is the extension of who we are. And like you're saying, Jen, if we have no idea who we are, it makes it a little bit complicated. Human design helps a lot with that. Because can you imagine if you would be able, and your parents would know already the whole of who you are, and they can guide you, empowering you instead of disempowering you? I feel this would be a huge difference. But
and so can I just add to that, Dominique, as well?
Of course.
I think there's a big difference, Jen, in like what we do is not who we are. So like a piano player or a gamer is not who you are. That is something that you do. But
I'm a quirky rainbow hat wearing funky leggings wearer. That's who I am.
Who we are, again, everything is energy, and we all come from the non-physical. And when we're born, we're these perfect beings who believe the world revolves around us. Babies don't have preconceived notions about who, what, why, where. I mean, literally, babies believe the world revolves around them. They're all perfect. They poop and they shout and they scream and they expect everyone to come running. And that is how it should be, right? We are all the center of our own universes. And that inner being is who we are. The other stuff, and it might be expressions of that, but what we do isn't who we are. And I think it is important to make that distinction, because otherwise often there is that trap of, oh, if one day I can't do this anymore, well, then I'm worthless, and people really identify with their jobs. And I've lived all around the world and in many, many different countries. And I noticed this primarily actually in North America, where when you meet someone, one of the very first questions they ask you is, well, what do you do? Because that's how they value, and that's how they make a definition based on your job. And I think that that's a big contributor to people's beliefs of, oh, well, if I don't have a good, right, very broadly defined job, or if I don't have a job at all, well, then I'm not worth anything. And that's just fundamentally not true.
Yeah. And we do define ourselves, right? Like, I mean, I can relate to that. When I was younger, people would always ask me, what do you do? It's like, well, I work in tourism, but this is not who I am. This is just the work that I do. Yeah. Well, ladies, I am so grateful that all of you came here today to answer these 3 very, very important questions for people that are starting their businesses, that are feeling the need to understand more about how to extend further than just what they are in the world. And I want to note a couple of things that everybody said, sorry. So if I start with Veronica, you said self-evolution is a self-long journey. And in the whole talk, what I got was align and keep evolving is what is going to keep you on the path. And Catherine, going back to your story, so this is basically what I heard from you saying to everybody here listening, going back to your story, because your business was built from your experience. And so everybody's business is built from their experience, and it all starts with the decision. And Polly, business is the intimate relation of who you are. I love this. This is always what I say. The whole of who you are is going to be the whole of who you are out there. And you said, my favorite thing that you said today was, what is the song that you really want to sing? I really love that. And it goes straight to Jen, our pianist, which is singing songs every day with her piano, coming back to what you know, find your tribe. The ones that truly need you will show up, and standing in your power, because for her, standing in her power and her true self made the difference. And this is basically what we are inviting all of you guys to do today, is to stand in your own power, to become your true self. And if anything resonated with you today, you have the handles of everybody here in the corner. And before we leave, I would like to know what you guys are doing in your business. If there is something going on, how can we reach you? Why would we reach you? And we're going to start with Veronica.
Okay, so yeah, as you said, wait, this side, it's mirrored. Those are the contact details to get in touch. And as I mentioned, I work on a physical, mental, and emotional level. So on the emotional level, it's really about raising your vibration. I do this through monthly calls where we get together, and it's a Q&A. And there's a lot of information I have on my website on how to raise your vibration. On the mental level, that's when people struggle just to let go of things. I've also already mentioned this. There's the hypnotherapy that I offer to really dig deep and find root causes of beliefs that are no longer serving us. And then on the physical level, as an integrative health coach, there's so much information out there about diets and superfoods and this, that, and the next thing, but we are all bio individuals, and the gut-brain connection is real. So people always thought that our mental health can affect our physical health, which I believe it does, but there's more and more research showing that the opposite is also true. So there are very simple ways, and this is what I work with as well. All the information is on my website, is how you can find the specific foods that work for you based on your individual gut microbiome, which is as unique as our DNA, to align health on a physical level too.
Yeah, as unique as our DNA, definitely. Catherine, I know that you have a course that is an ongoing. Is there anything that you would like to talk about on that course, or anything that you're doing in your country?
Yeah, actually the courses are new, and so I'm grateful for this opportunity of getting, exposure to the courses. The courses go for 4 weeks. The students do them, students get the skills, they're activity-based, they're fun. A lot of the time they don't even know they're learning actually, or actually gaining quite good skills. It's geared around the busy lifestyle. So the kids can do the course, they pay for it takes 4 weeks or 4 sessions. And there is an additional parent overview session that's also included. Now, they don't need to attend every week. They can go, the first 3 weeks or 2 weeks if then they've got something else like holidays. They can come after that. They will just do their 4 sessions. 3 sessions are in a group. The last session is one-on-one, but I do sessions one-on-one for all of them. And actually, the website's got lots of information. It's just being updated. And if anyone goes to the website, they can get a discount on the prices. And you must remember they are Australian prices, so it's very cheap for everyone here, for England, the pound compared to the dollar and, Canadian dollars and US dollars. Very big saving.
Well, beautiful. So I invite everybody to go on your website and to start that course with your teens. And now that you have it online, anybody in the world can take it, which makes the online world so beautiful.
It is still live online, though. We still connect up, and it's a very much interactive, ask questions, we play games. But it's fun.
Beautiful. All right, Polly.
Well, I'm just going to say that if anybody wants to take the advice of this amazing group of people and you just wanted to hang out in my world for a little bit, then you're very welcome to join my email list. I just send out one a week. It's normally an opinion piece or a bit of resource or whatever. If you just want to hang out, then you can find that link on my website. But of course, I do offer one-to-one mentoring, helping people build their businesses from the inside out. So really working on the truth of who you are, all of you, and what that looks like in a business sense, and how do you then take that out and say, what sort of business model should I have, and what program should I offer, and what's my marketing strategy? And it's basically from, end to end, the work that I do. I don't limit it to one little bit or here or there. And I help people create their own labels, their own versions of what they do, and how to evolve. And if it's a wonderful space to be just listened to, so that I can reflect back to people, yeah, that's who you are, that's what I'm seeing, that's what that's what we need to be building. So if people are sort of like thinking, oh, I really need to build my business up, I need to really build my business around who I am, then that's what my mentoring is for. And I've got something at lots of different levels, lots of different time inputs, and I've got a membership as well. So everything is on my website. All my free resources are on my website. So that head off to my website to find it.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And Jen, your turn.
So I am the Tropic Pianist Gamer, but I'd like to promote my book and my podcast today. So if you're interested in my stories about anxiety and what it's like to actually live through anxiety for most of your life, and then how I overcame it in lockdown without professional help, my book is available worldwide on Amazon and is called Tales of an Anxiety Warrior. So it's on paperback, Kindle, and Audible. Yes, I narrated my own audiobook, and that's how my podcast came to exist. So my podcast was called Tales of an Anxiety Warrior, but it's actually called the Tropic Pianist Gamers podcast, because when I started it, I kept introducing it wrong and it stuck. So it's just about to have its 39th episode. So looking forward to bringing it out. It comes out twice a month. I have a solo episode and a guest episode. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, everybody. And if you're listening, we're gonna put all the links below in the show notes. Thank you again for spending this hour with me, and thank you for who is listening for listening to us. And again, you can link with anybody with the handles on the corner.